Space in the Valrath system was usually quiet. The main star shone a soft orange glow, lighting up the scattered asteroid fields and the one large trade station that orbited the second planet. Merchant ships came and went. Cargo haulers drifted lazily toward docking bays. The galactic patrol cruisers floated in assigned orbits, keeping watch for smugglers or pirates. On the bridge of the GCP Arthanus, Captain Relvar tapped his clawed fingers against the arm of his command chair. He was bored. Patrol duty in Valrath was nothing more than staring at scanners and pretending to look busy. His second officer, Lieutenant Cray, was half asleep at the sensor console. Then the alarms went off. "Contact!" Cray shouted, his four eyes snapping open. "An unidentified vessel has just exited a silent jump near the asteroid belt." "Captain," Relvar leaned forward. "Silent jump? That's not possible. Every known drive leaves a signature." "This one didn't," Cray said, staring at the readings. "It just appeared. No hyperspace trail, no slipstream residue, nothing." The rest of the bridge crew began speaking at once, their voices overlapping. The Arthanus's scanners projected the object on the central holo display. It was large, easily the size of a battleship, but its design was strange. Instead of the smooth, curved hulls common to most galactic species, this vessel was all sharp angles and heavy plating. The armor was layered and dark, broken only by lines of faint blue, light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Massive gun turrets sat along its sides, each looking big enough to crack a cruiser in half. "What species builds something like that?" Cray whispered. "No one I know," Relvar said. "And I've seen every registered warship in the galactic database." The bridge crew tried hailing the vessel. Static filled the comms. "No response," said the communications officer. "It's ignoring us." "That thing's not in any registry," Cray said, scrolling through the database. Again. "Not in military records, not in pirate archives, not in civilian logs. Nothing." Relvar frowned. "Then it doesn't belong here." Across the system, other patrol ships reported seeing the same vessel, slowly moving toward open space. It didn't seem to be rushing, but every sensor sweep showed high levels of power building deep inside its hull. Its shields were up, its weapons armed, but it didn't fire. Speculation spread quickly among the alien crews. Some believed it was an ancient warship from a lost empire. Others thought it was a smuggler's decoy, an old hull packed with stolen goods. A few whispered about ghost ships. On the Arthanus, Cray leaned closer to the scanner screen. "Captain, there's something written on the hull. I can magnify it." The holo display zoomed in, clearing the distortion caused by the ship's armor. Words in blocky white letters stretched across one side. "TSS Retribution. What language?" "Is that?" the captain asked. "Unknown," Cray said, "but the characters are strange. Hard edges, uniform shapes, almost aggressive." Relvar didn't like it. He ordered the Arthanus to adjust course and approach the vessel. Two other patrol cruisers joined, moving into a loose formation around the unknown ship. "Send another hail," Relvar commanded. The communications officer tried again. This time the static crackled, then cut off completely. No reply, no sound, just silence. "They can hear us," the officer said. "They're just not answering." Relvar's tail twitched in irritation. "Fine. Let's see if they respond to presence. Launch a fighter wing. Have them circle the ship and force it to slow down." Minutes later, 8 sleek interceptors shot from the Arthanus's hangar. They streaked across the void, engines glowing. As they closed in, the Retribution's turrets swiveled, tracking them with eerie precision. "They've locked targeting. Sensors on our fighters," Cray reported. "Hold formation," Relvar ordered, his voice tight. They wouldn't dare fire on galactic patrol craft without provocation. The fighters closed to within a few kilometers. They began broadcasting standard inspection codes, signaling the unknown ship to stop. That was when the scanners screamed. Power. "Surge!" Cray shouted. "Weapons charging!" On the view screen, a bright glow formed in the forward cannons of the Retribution. The energy readings spiked, higher than anything the Arthenis' computers had recorded before. "This can't be right," Cray said, voice trembling. "The output? It's beyond battleship levels. This is something else." Relvar slammed his claw on the comms console. "All fighters, break off! Fall back now!" The fighters turned hard, engines flaring. Too late. A flash of blinding light erupted from the Terran ship's forward batteries. In less than a second, 2 interceptors were gone, erased from existence. The other 6 scattered wildly, their pilots shouting over comms. They just destroyed our ships without even aiming," one voice cried. Relvar's scales prickled. The alien fleets he knew fought with measured strikes and long exchanges. This was a Predator's strike. Quick, final. The Retribution didn't follow the retreating fighters. It slowed slightly, as if scanning the patrol cruisers. Then, in complete silence, it rotated to face the Arthenis. "They're looking right at us," Cray whispered. Relvar didn't like the feeling in his chest. This wasn't just an unknown vessel. It was something more dangerous, something built for a kind of war the galaxy hadn't seen in centuries. "Raise shields to maximum," he ordered. "Arm all weapons. I want every ship in the sector on alert." Even as he gave the order, he noticed something disturbing. The Retribution wasn't broadcasting any identification codes, any alliance tags, or any transponder signal. In the galactic community, that was a clear sign. This ship did not consider itself part of their laws, and yet there was a strange discipline to its movements. It didn't rush. It didn't fire wildly. It simply watched. Hours passed, with the alien fleet shadowing the strange vessel. The Retribution made no attempt to flee. It adjusted its course several times, but never engaged again. And still, it refused to speak. Relvar sat in his chair, staring at the silent giant on his view screen. His crew worked in tense silence. "Captain," Cray said at last, "I've been thinking. Maybe it's not ignoring us. Maybe it's listening." "What do you mean?" "Look at the movements, the scans. It's keeping exact distance from our cruisers. When our fighters closed in, it reacted instantly. I think it's studying us." Relvar thought about it. If true, that was worse than silence. It meant the Retribution was gathering information, learning their tactics, their capabilities. "Why study us unless they plan to fight?" Relvar murmured. As the alien captain watched, the Retribution slowly rotated again, this time showing its full broadside. Row after row of gun ports and missile bays lined the hull. They were massive, too massive for any single ship to carry without sacrificing everything else. And yet, the vessel's armor still looked thick enough to survive a planet's bombardment. For the first time in years, Relvar felt something he hadn't felt since his academy days: fear. He opened a private channel to Fleet Command. I'm sending full data on this vessel. Advise all systems. Unknown warship present. Possible threat level. Extreme." The reply came back almost instantly. "Hold position. Do not engage unless fired upon." Relvar looked at the Retribution. He had a feeling that waiting for them to fire might be too late. By the time the Valrath sun dipped, behind the asteroid belt, the alien patrol fleet was stretched thin, monitoring every move of the intruder. Trade ships were redirected. Civilian traffic was locked down. And still, the black angular shape of the Retribution moved steadily, silently, through the system. On the bridge of the Arthenis, the crew's eyes never left the sensors. Every reading, every shift in energy, was reported in tense voices. Relvar stood, his gaze fixed on the alien warship that wasn't truly alien. It was something else entirely. The black shape of the TSS Retribution drifted through the Valrath system like a silent predator. Hours had passed since its sudden arrival. The alien fleet kept a careful distance, their cruisers and frigates forming a loose ring around the strange vessel. No one dared move too close, not after the interceptors were destroyed in a single flash of light. The wreckage of those fighters still floated in the void, a quiet warning to anyone thinking about testing the intruder again. On the bridge of the GCP Arthenis, Captain Relvar leaned forward in his chair, claws tapping against the armrest. His second officer, Cray, was hunched over the sensor console, eyes locked on the readings. "They haven't powered down a single system," Cray reported. "Shields are still active, weapons still charged." "They're waiting," Relvar muttered. The communications officer turned in her seat. "Captain, Fleet Command says we are to make contact again. Direct communication, this time using every known language in the galactic archives." Relvar's tail twitched. "And if they ignore us again?" The officer hesitated. "We are to escalate measures." That word, escalate, sat heavily in the air. The Arthenis' comms array began transmitting in over 60 languages. Trade common, Yarlian clicks, even the ancient runes of the Siren Empire. The message was simple. Unknown vessel. Identify yourself. You are in protected galactic space. Failure to comply will result in enforcement action. The alien crews waited. Seconds passed, then minutes. The comms filled with nothing but static. Cray shook his head. "Same as before. Either they don't understand or they don't care." Relvar knew it wasn't the first. Ships with that level of precision didn't just wander into foreign systems without knowing the rules. No, this ship understood. It simply chose to ignore. Fleet Command's next orders came through. Send another fighter wing, but keep them armed this time. The goal was to force the strange vessel to stop. Relvar didn't like it, but orders were orders. "Launch fighters," he commanded. 12 interceptors shot out from the Arthenis and the other patrol ships, forming a wide arc around the Retribution. This time, they kept their distance, 50 kilometers, far enough to avoid an instant strike, but close enough to show intent. Over the comms, one of the fighter pilots spoke. "Formation complete. Broadcasting inspection codes. The alien." Crews watched the tactical displays. The fighters began sending a constant stream of signals to the Terran ship. Requests to stop engines, requests to transmit cargo manifests, and identification demands. For a while, nothing happened. Then slowly, the Retribution began to turn. "Adjusting. Heading," Cray said quickly. "They're aligning their main batteries toward our fighters." The pilots reacted instantly. "All units evasive! Repeat, evasive!" The Terran ship didn't fire this time. Instead, its hull lit with faint blue lines, energy surging through strange channels. Alien sensors picked up multiple weapon locks, on, every fighter at once. "They're tracking all of them," Cray whispered, "simultaneously." "That's impossible," the weapons officer muttered. "Even our best fire control systems can only handle 4 locks at a time." "Not for them," Relvar said grimly. The Arthenis opened a fleet-wide channel. "Unknown vessel, this is your final warning. Power down your weapons, or you will be engaged." The message was sent on every frequency. Still, the Terran ship said nothing. Instead, something else happened. Small, faint blips appeared on the tactical display. They were launching objects. Dozens of them. "Are those missiles?" Cray asked. The answer came a moment later when the objects spread out, moving with deliberate precision. They weren't missiles. They were drones. Each was the size of a small fighter, black and angular like their parent ship, with glowing eyes of blue light. They didn't attack, but instead moved between the Retribution and the alien fighters, forming a wall. "This is new," Relvar muttered. "I've never seen defensive drones deployed like that." The fighters received new orders from Fleet Command. Push closer, test the drone's reactions. It was a bad idea, but the pilots obeyed. 3 interceptors eased forward. The drones moved. instantly, swarming to block them. A thin beam of blue light swept across the fighters, scanning them. "They're reading our ships," Cray said. "Energy signatures, weapons loadouts, even shield modulation." Relvar's chest tightened. "They're learning how to kill us more efficiently." The fleet's tension grew with every passing second. The Retribution still hadn't fired, but its silence felt more dangerous than open hostility. Every action was deliberate. Every movement calculated. Finally, a direct order came from Fleet Command. "If they will not respond, prepare to disable them. Target weapons first, engines second." Relvar didn't argue, but inside he felt the weight of that decision. This ship had already shown it could destroy fighters without effort. If it fought back with full power, the Valrath system might lose more than a few patrol ships. Still, orders were orders. "Lock weapons," Relvar said. On the view screen, the Retribution's hull shimmered slightly, like heat distortion. Cray frowned. "Captain, I think they know." The first salvo from the alien fleet never came, because the Retribution moved first. In a heartbeat, the massive ship accelerated, not toward open space, but toward the nearest patrol cruiser. Its forward batteries glowed again, the same deadly light from before. Alien shields flared, bracing for impact, but the shot never came. Instead, the Terran vessel stopped dead in space, barely a kilometer from the cruiser. The drones swept forward, surrounding the alien ship in a perfect sphere. A transmission finally came through. Not a voice, a symbol. It appeared on every screen in the alien fleet, a circular emblem of blue and white with a single word beneath it in blocky letters. Terranthus symbol vanished. Then a second image appeared. Grainy footage, but clear enough to see. A planet. Blue oceans, white clouds, green continents. Then fire. Explosions ripped across the surface. Orbital strikes hammered cities. Ships burned in the atmosphere. The footage changed again. Rows of human figures carrying wounded, pulling survivors from rubble. And then wreckage with alien markings. Cray's voice was quiet. "That's not random. That's evidence." Relvar understood. The message was simple. "We remember what you did." The comms cut out. The Retribution pulled back slowly. Drones returning to their bays, but its weapons stayed armed. For the first time, Relvar realized this wasn't a lost warship or a ghost vessel. This was a mission, a statement, and whatever the humans, Terrans, wanted, they would take it, one way or another. As the alien fleet followed at a safe distance, every crew member on the Arthenis felt it in their bones. They weren't the hunters anymore. They were being hunted. The Valrath system was silent. Too silent. Every ship in the alien patrol fleet hung in space, weapons armed, shields up, eyes fixed on the black angular giant drifting ahead of them, the TSS Retribution. No one spoke on the GCP Arthenis bridge. The air felt heavy, as if the wrong word might trigger the monster to attack. Captain Relvar's claws tapped the armrest, but he didn't realize he was doing it. "They're still holding position," Cray whispered, staring at the tactical display. "No course change, no new drones, no transmissions." "That's worse," Relvar muttered. "Ships like that don't just wait, they choose the moment." And then it happened. The Retribution's engines flared. Blue-white light burned at its stern as the warship surged forward. Not a cautious drift this time. Full power. Its path was direct, straight at the cruiser GCP Halvrin. "Halvrin, evasive maneuvers now." Relvar barked over the fleet channel. The Halvrin's thrusters lit up, but the Terran ship was faster. Far faster than a vessel of its size should have been. The Retribution closed the gap in seconds, swinging broadside, and for the first time its full armament came into view. Rows upon rows of turrets, massive cannons, missile bays the size of shuttles, all of them locked onto the Halvrin. The first shot wasn't a warning. It was a statement. A beam of concentrated energy ripped from the Retribution's forward batteries. It struck the Halvrin's shield's dead center. The impact wasn't gradual. It was explosive. The shields collapsed instantly, their generators overloading in a burst of sparks. On the Arthenis, the bridge crew froze. They dropped the shields in one hit, Cray whispered. Before the Halvrin could react, 2 more blasts followed. The first punched a hole clean through the starboard wing. The second cut across the main hull, venting atmosphere into space. The Halvrin was crippled in less than 10 seconds. "All ships, fire at will," Relvar ordered. The patrol fleet erupted in return fire. Plasma bolts, missile salvos, and railgun slugs streaked toward the Terran ship, and yet nothing hit. The Retribution's shields flared bright blue, absorbing the barrage without a flicker of strain. The ship didn't even slow. "They're shrugging it off," the weapons officer cried. "Our fire isn't touching them." Relvar's voice was grim. "Then we have no choice. Focus everything on one point. Overload their defenses." The fleet concentrated their fire, pouring energy into the Retribution's starboard shields. For a moment, the blue shimmer wavered, but then the Terran ship fired back. Its broadside came alive. Dozens of cannons spat bolts of light that moved faster than the eye could track. Every hit tore through alien shields as if they weren't there. A missile barrage followed, each warhead breaking apart into a swarm of smaller, self-guided projectiles. 2 frigates exploded outright. Another cruiser lost its engines, drifting helplessly. The Retribution moved between them like a predator, in a herd, picking its targets with precision. "They're not just firing blindly," Cray realized aloud. "They're disabling command ships first. They're cutting off our coordination." Relvar's tail lashed behind him. "This isn't their first battle. They've done this before, many times." Suddenly, a swarm of Terran drones launched again. But this time, they weren't defensive. They streaked toward the crippled alien ships, attaching to their hulls. "Are those boarding units?" the communications officer asked in disbelief. "No," Cray said, studying the readings. "They're draining data. They're pulling our logs, our codes, everything we have." The thought sent a chill through the Arthenis' bridge. The humans weren't just winning the fight, they were stealing intelligence while doing it. Direct hit shook the Arthenis. Warning lights flared red. "Port shields at 42%, the damage control officer reported. Relvar gritted his teeth. "Keep us at distance, don't let them—" A new alarm cut him off. "Incoming projectile! Impact in 3 seconds!" The Arthenis twisted hard, thrusters screaming. A massive slug shot past their bow, close enough to make the hull groan. It struck an Allied cruiser behind them, breaking it in 2. Relvar's eyes narrowed. The Retribution hadn't missed them by accident. That was a warning shot. On the fleet channel, a voice suddenly spoke. It was deep, steady, and unlike any. Alien tone. "This is Captain Marcus Hale of the Terran Confederation warship Retribution. You destroyed one of our colonies. This is your reckoning." The voice cut out as quickly as it had come. Gasps filled the Arthenis bridge. "That language, that's what was written on their hull," Cray said. "Terran." Relvar's mind raced. He had heard rumors in fringe reports about a new species from a death world, a planet where survival was a daily war. But those stories were always dismissed as exaggerations. Now, he wasn't so sure. The Retribution began its next run. It passed through the center of the alien fleet, its cannons and missiles never stopping. Ships exploded in its wake, their debris scattering like dry leaves in a storm. The aliens tried to regroup, but every time a formation began to form, the Terran ships smashed through it. "They're too fast for a battleship that size," Cray shouted. "They're not fighting like a battleship," Relvar replied. "They're fighting like a hunter." In under 15 minutes, the patrol fleet was reduced to half strength. Fires burned on drifting wrecks. Escape pods launched. In desperate arcs toward the trade station, Relvar knew they couldn't win, not here. Not against that, but retreating meant giving the humans full control of the system. And that could mean the destruction of the Valrath station, and everyone on it. He opened a channel to the Retribution. Terran vessel, this is Captain Relvar of the Galactic Patrol. We acknowledge your grievance. Let us negotiate. Terms before more lives are lost. No reply. The Retribution kept firing. Finally, the alien flagship, GCP Vornath, moved forward. Its admiral's voice boomed across the fleet channel. All ships, concentrate fire on the enemy's aft engines. If we can slow them, we can board. The idea was bold. It was also doomed. The Retribution seemed to sense the plan instantly. Its rear turret swung around and unleashed a wall of firepower. 3 ships trying to approach from behind were obliterated in seconds. The humans weren't going to be boarded. They weren't going to be stopped. When the battle finally reached its peak, the Retribution executed a maneuver that made even seasoned alien officers stare in disbelief. The massive ship rolled sideways while firing in all directions at once. Its weapons perfectly synchronized, hitting multiple targets in different vectors. The coordination was flawless, as if the ship itself was alive. Within moments, the remaining alien fleet was scattered, their formations broken beyond repair. Relvar stared at the tactical display. Half his fleet was gone. The rest were in retreat, not because he ordered it, but because they had no choice. The Retribution slowed, hovering among the wreckage like a predator surveying its kill. Then, without warning, its guns fell silent. The Terran ship stopped firing as if deciding the point had been made. Drones returned to their bays. The only movement came from the faint blue glow pulsing along its hull. Relvar knew what that meant. The Retribution wasn't done. It was simply choosing its next target. And if the humans' earlier message was true, that target would be the Valrath station. That was when Relvar finally understood. This wasn't just a battle. It was a warning. The Valrath system hung in silence after the destruction of half the alien fleet. Wreckage drifted in the void. Fires burned on disabled cruisers, their alarms shrieking endlessly. Escape pods floated toward nowhere, carrying terrified crews, who could only pray for mercy. Captain Relvar of the GCP Arthenis sat frozen in his command chair. His claws drummed lightly against the console, but it was no nervous tick. He was thinking, analyzing, trying to comprehend what had just happened. "They're too strong," Lieutenant Cray muttered. "Not one ship of ours could stand against them, not even our combined fleet. How can a single ship be this powerful?" Relvar didn't answer. He stared at the faint blue glow of the TSS Retribution as it drifted silently among the wreckage. The Terran vessel had stopped firing, yet the threat it represented was far from gone. Then, suddenly, a pulse of light flashed across all screens in the fleet. It wasn't a weapon. It wasn't a drone. It was a message. On every display, every ship, every terminal, a new image appeared. First, the symbol, a simple circle with a blue and white pattern. Beneath it, a single word in bold letters. Terranthy alien crews exchanged. Anxious glances. Even among the veteran officers, there was confusion. No species had ever sent a message this way. Direct, global, impossible to ignore. Then the visuals changed. Grainy footage flickered across the screens. It showed a planet, blue and green, with white clouds swirling in its atmosphere. Cities glimmered along coastlines. But within seconds, fire and smoke filled the images. Buildings crumbled. Ships exploded in orbit. Human figures ran through the chaos, dragging the wounded to safety, covering each other as explosions rocked the ground. And then the images shifted again. One frame showed debris marked with alien insignias, the same symbols seen on the patrol, fleet's ships. Wreckage littered a human colony. They're showing us our own crime, Cray whispered. That's our fault. Relvar's claws dug into the chair. He had known the patrol had been involved in illegal deals before, sheltering pirates and turning blind eyes, but no one had imagined that the humans, Terrans, remembered or cared. The Terran message continued, changing screens in a rapid series of visuals. Images of their colonies, destroyed in attacks the patrol fleet had overlooked. Star maps showing the path of the attackers, linking them to Valrath stations. Rows of Terran figures, armed and organized, standing among survivors, showing they had both strength and resolve. Then, words appeared on every screen, clear and simple. This is a warning. The Terran Confederation does not forgive trespassers. Those who protect criminals will feel our wrath. Silence spread across the fleet. The patrol crews could not speak. Some fainted. Others stared at their consoles, unable to comprehend the meaning. Captain Relvar's mind raced. They didn't attack blindly, he said finally. This was deliberate. They came here to teach us a lesson, to show us power, but also judgment. Lieutenant Cray leaned closer. Judgment? Captain? We can't fight them. Not like this. Half our fleet is destroyed. The rest, if we try to resist, the Valrath station is next. Relvar nodded slowly. Then we have to make a choice. We can either stand and risk annihilation, or we can listen. The Terran drones moved again, this time approaching the crippled ships. They weren't attacking, not yet. Instead, they latched onto the hulls, uploading data and projecting more images. The aliens saw their communications logs, their tactical manuals, even their personal records flash across the drone's display. They're taking everything, an officer muttered. Our knowledge, our secrets, all of it. They are, Relvar said. So we can't lie. They already know. The patrol fleet's admirals convened via their private channel. Holograms flickered across the screens. Worn faces, tentacle-twisted heads, beak-shaped helmets. They all shared the same fear. This species, they're unlike any we've encountered, one admiral said. They move like hunters. They strike like predators. And they judge without mercy. Another added, they're not here for war. Not yet. They're here to punish and to warn. Relvar's claws tapped the console again. Then the question is, do we resist or do we surrender? Meanwhile, on the Retribution, the crew remained calm. There was no celebration, no arrogance. Their captain, Marcus Hale, observed the displays, noting the reactions of the alien fleet. They had done what they needed. The message had been delivered. The Terrans had built a weapon of peace, if peace could be called that, a display of power that forced reflection without immediate annihilation. And yet, they were ready. If the aliens moved against them, the system would burn. Relvar's voice finally broke the silence on the Arthanis. All ships, open a channel. Show them we understand. We acknowledge their warning. The communications officer complied. On the screens across the fleet, a single message appeared, trembling in all languages known to the patrol. We understand. We accept your warning. We will not interfere further. The Retribution's drones paused their data collection, their blue lights dimming. The Terran warship drifted silently, observing the fleet's reaction. For the first time, the aliens realized something profound. The humans had not come to conquer. They had come to remind the galaxy that even small species, underestimated and dismissed, could wield unimaginable power. Across the fleet, whispers began. They could have destroyed us completely. They didn't. They're merciful. For now. The Terran message was simple. Humanity would not forgive, but it would not destroy unnecessarily. It demanded respect, and that was far more terrifying than mindless aggression. The alien commanders now faced a choice. Some wanted to flee entirely, abandoning the system to the humans and avoiding future encounters. Others suggested a show of strength, sending ambassadors. perhaps even attempting to negotiate for safety. Relvar knew which path was safer. "We cannot risk further attack. We obey. We withdraw. But we must learn from this. We must remember the Terrans' power and their patience." Fleet channels buzzed as orders went out. The remaining ships slowly began retreating, engines flaring. The Valrath station remained untouched, a silent reminder that the Terrans' judgment had limits. The Retribution did not pursue. It watched the alien fleet retreat, then slowly turned toward the system exit. Its mission here was complete. Marcus. Hale gave a single order. "Jump coordinates set. Prepare for hyperspace. Leave a warning behind." The ship's engines glowed brighter, the massive silhouette of the Terran battleship cutting across the Valrath system one last time. Before it vanished into hyperspace, a final broadcast filled every alien terminal. This was mercy. Next time. There will be no survivors. As the last Terran signals faded, Relvar stared at the empty space where the Retribution had been. "They are unlike any species we've faced," he said quietly. "We have underestimated them, and we cannot allow this to happen again." Kray's eyes were wide. "We survived, but the galaxy knows now. Terrans exist, and anyone who ignores them will die." Relvar nodded. He knew one truth above all others. Humanity had arrived, quietly, efficiently, mercilessly, and the universe would never forget it. The legend of the TSS Retribution had begun. Whispers spread across distant star systems. Traders, pirates, even neutral diplomats spoke of a species that survived impossible worlds, struck with precision, and judged without mercy. The Valrath system was quiet again, but it was a quiet unlike any the galaxy had known. Smoke still drifted in orbit. Twisted metal from destroyed cruisers floated like stars in the void. Alarms still rang faintly from abandoned stations and wrecked ships. Every alien officer who survived stared at their consoles, haunted by what they had witnessed. Captain Relvar of the GCP Arthanis sat frozen in his command chair. His claws clenched the armrest, but it was not from anger or fear. It was from understanding. The humans, the Terrans, had done something no other species had ever done. They had struck not out of anger alone, but with purpose, precision, and warning. They could have ended everything, Lieutenant Kray whispered, eyes wide. Every ship, every station, gone. Relvar nodded slowly. They didn't. They left the system, intact, but only because they chose to. That is what terrifies me the most. The alien fleet began to regroup, if regrouping could even be called that. Many ships were destroyed. Others were drifting, engines damaged, shields weakened. The patrol commanders spoke in low, urgent tones. "What are we to do now?" one admiral asked, his voice trembling. "We cannot attack them. We have no strength left. And yet, we cannot allow this to happen again." Relvar's claws tapped the console as he considered their options. The TSS Retribution had made one thing very clear. Humans do not forgive, and they do not forget. They will return. "If provoked," he said, "we must make a choice. We can surrender entirely, or we can face them and risk annihilation. There is no middle ground." Meanwhile, far above Valrath's atmosphere, the Retribution hovered silently. Its massive engines glowed faint blue, reflecting across the debris field like a watchful predator. Captain Marcus Hale stood on the bridge, observing the alien fleet with calm precision. "The message was received," he said to his first officer. "We've proven capability. We've given warning. That is all that was required, for now." The Terrans did not celebrate. They did not gloat. Every system aboard the ship operated with quiet efficiency. Humans were not cruel. They were calculated. Their goal was not destruction, but survival, and a lesson that would echo across the stars. Back on the Arthenus, Relvar received reports from across the remaining fleet. Many patrol cruisers were retreating toward Valrath's outer system. Some were too damaged to move. Civilian traffic had been locked down completely, and station personnel were in lockdown, frightened but unharmed. "It is a miracle the station still stands," Cray said. "If they had wanted, it could be gone." "Yes," Relvar replied, "but that is the Terran way. They strike with precision, not chaos. They punish only those who deserve it. For now." Across the fleet, murmurs began. Whispers of the humans' power spread like wildfire. Crews who had once underestimated the Terrans now feared and respected them in equal measure. "They are predators," one lieutenant said quietly. "Silent, deadly, and intelligent." "They are humans," another added, "and we have learned the hard way not to provoke them." As the alien commanders debated their next move, a smaller cruiser approached the Arthenus. Its captain, a young officer named Thalrix, sent a private communication to Relvar. "They are planning to leave," Thalrix said. "Their ship is still in the system, but the engines are powering for jump. Do we risk pursuit?" Relvar shook his head. "No, we cannot follow. Not now. Not ever, unless we are ready to risk extinction. Let them leave. Let them go. But let us remember." Thalrix hesitated. "Remember? They have destroyed half our fleet." "Yes," Relvar replied quietly. "And they will destroy it all if we challenge them again." The Retribution began its final maneuver. Its massive frame aligned with the system's exit point, engines flaring brightly as hyperspace calculations were run. Drones returned to the ship's hull, and the vessel's weapon systems dimmed slightly. Marcus Hale's voice echoed through the ship's intercom. "Prepare to jump," he commanded. "The warning has been delivered. Our work here is done." Thale. Ship shifted slightly, aligning perfectly with the system's exit vector. In moments, the TSS Retribution would vanish, leaving the Valrath system in stunned silence. Then, a final message appeared across every alien console, not just the fleet's tactical displays, but also on every station terminal. This was, "Mercy! Next time, there will be no survivors." The words were simple, clear, and terrifying. Fleet commanders exchanged looks of horror. They understood immediately. The humans had limits, but those limits were boundaries set by mercy, not weakness. The patrol fleet began to withdraw completely. Relvar ordered the remaining ships to regroup at Valrath Station. Repairs would take weeks. Lives had been lost, equipment destroyed. Yet somehow, the system remained intact. Every officer knew one thing: the galaxy had changed. In the following hours, rumors spread beyond the Valrath system. Traders whispered in docking bays across neutral sectors. Pirates shared stories in hidden spaceports. Even ambassadors in distant council chambers spoke quietly of the Terrans. "They exist," one trader said, "and they are unlike any we've seen." "They fight like no other species," another said. "Fast, precise, unstoppable." "They remember," a pirate added, "and they punish. I've seen it with my own eyes. If you cross them, there is no escape." Back on the Arthenus, Relvar surveyed the remaining fleet. The damage was staggering, but every officer there had survived. Somehow they had endured, but they had learned a lesson they would never forget. "They are not just warriors," Cray said quietly. "They are something more. Calculated, patient, relentless." "Yes," Relvar replied, "they are humans, and we have learned our place in the universe. We have seen their power. We will respect it, or we will die." The weight of that truth settled on every officer. The galaxy had underestimated humanity for too long. Across the stars, the TSS Retribution vanished into hyperspace. No one knew where it would appear next. Some said it would patrol human space. Others whispered it would strike wherever injustice or cruelty occurred. For the first time, the galaxy realized that humans did not need fleets of hundreds or thousands to be feared. One ship, one captain, one crew, if needed, was enough to change the fate of an entire star system. And it was not just the ship that struck fear. It was the humans themselves. Intelligent, adaptive, merciless when required, but capable of restraint when it served their purpose. Weeks later, in council chambers across the galaxy, discussions began. "They are not to be ignored," one ambassador said. "We must understand their culture, their capabilities. To underestimate them would be suicide." "Agreed," another replied, "and we must warn our allies. The Terrans are no ordinary species. They will not forgive negligence." And somewhere in a quiet corner of the galaxy, across 100 systems, whispers spread of a single ship that had entered a distant system, struck without hesitation, and left behind a message no one could forget. The name of the ship became Legend, TSS Retribution. The species became legend, Terrans, and the galaxy learned a lesson it would never forget. Humans fight differently. They strike not only with strength, but with intelligence. They plan, they judge, and when necessary, they destroy. Captain Relvar of the Arthenis stood on the bridge of his ship, looking at the wreckage drifting across Valrath's orbit. "They are gone. For now," he said, "but they will return if provoked." Lieutenant Cray nodded. "And next time, we will not survive." Relvar's eyes narrowed. "No, next time, we will remember. We will respect them. The humans, the Terrans, they have shown us the future, and it is one we cannot afford to ignore." Above them, in the silent void of space, the TSS Retribution glowed faintly for the last moment before slipping into hyperspace, leaving only the echo of a lesson burned into every mind in the Valrath system. The galaxy had been warned.